Okay, back at it here. I don't know if I talked about it before, I can't remember, but the bearings are secured into place with these dowel pins. If you can see these, um, they fit into this hole, and there's actually one, two, three. There's four on this side and one on this side, so there's five total. When I was putting this motor together the last time I was filming, I couldn't find one. So you can't just go to the hardware store and get these. The auto parts stores don't carry them. You're pretty much screwed unless you want to wait a week to order them from someplace in California, like J-Bugs or something like that. But what I did was I went online to the local Facebook group for Michigan Volkswagens, and I put out the call, said, hey, anybody local near me got one of these they can spare? And sure enough, somebody gave me one. So thank you very much for that. What you need those for is the bearings have these little spots on them that is matches up to, and it holds your bearing in place, keeps it from rotating, keeps it from going side to side. And that's true on all of these except for the round ones. And actually the round ones have them too. And that's part of the tricky part of putting one of these cranks in. I've got the block sitting up on wood blocks right now, so I have a little clearance to drop these rods through. What I did was, and I saw this in a book somewhere suggested it, you make a line where you do a test fit of the bearings, and you make a line where it meets the half of the block, so that when it comes time to lower the crank in, it's a lot easier to figure out where the dowel pins are going to line up. So I'm just lining it up right there. Felt that drop in. I'm going to line this one up here. It's already good. This one I've got to get lined up. This one's a little hard to rotate sometimes. I've got that lined up. So should be pretty close to getting this thing to go through. It's sitting on the rod there. That. So I'm just holding up here. And it's holding me up. I don't know what's holding me up here. Oh, there it goes. Just dropped in. So now everything looks good. This one's in place. You can start putting some tappets in, and then we can get to the camshaft. I bought all new tappets because mine were a little bit rough looking on the faces. They were kind of not cool. Let's see if I can find one here. What did I do with them? There they are. See, I don't know if you can see these. Let's see. Here we are. These are kind of pitted looking, and not like what we want to see here. So not too bad. It's about $80 for a set of them, I think it was. Let's put some lube on them. Drop them in the holes. Just gonna kind of spin the lube around on them as I drop them in. I've already got the cam bearings in. There's no real trick to those. I was briefly toying around with stopping this project and making this engine a little more high performance. I read an article on doing an 1800 cc motor. This is a 1600 roughly. it's a stock motor for 1970. So basically, I'm just kind of going through it and cleaning it all up and putting it back together the way it's supposed to be. But if you put a different crank in it that's stroked, it's got a longer stroke than standard, and then put some pistons in that are a bigger bore than standard, the additional cc's, cubic centimeters of displacement you get, adds up to 1,800, which is a pretty significant boost. It's over 10%. And as a result, you obviously get more horsepower, closer to 65 or 70 horsepower, I think, instead of the 55 I think these run. So I toyed around with that, but in the end, you have to deal with different pushrod sizes, and I didn't want to get all into that. Maybe on the next engine. I think once I get this done, I'll consider putting together a special engine that's a little more high performance, and then maybe if everything goes well with the car, then I'll look at doing a freeway flyer transmission too, which allows higher RPMs on the freeway, or lower RPM. It lowers your RPMs on the freeway by changing out your final drive ratio in the transmission. So fourth gear, you're moving right along. You can do 80 miles an hour in a Volkswagen Beetle easily, which would be nice, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So, got our camshaft here. We're going to give it a little wipe down. I don't think it really got cleaned too much, but looks pretty good as is. Get particulates out of here. And now we got to find that spot on the crank. There it is. There's two dots, if you can see them. There's two dots right here that need to match up with the one dot on the cam. So we're going to have to rotate this baby around without banging things around too much. Get it to mesh with that gear as I drop it in. Oopsies, what happened there? Okay. So this there. Oh, I'm going to put some lube in the cam bearings here too. Kind of hit the faces of the lifters as well. I'm sure somebody's going to have some opinions on the way I'm doing this, but oh well. You know, I'm doing best I can. So what I did is I meshed it there, and I'm just kind of rolling it down so it should be in the right place. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. Now there's a funny thing. Since the cam bores are all done in a line through half the case, you've got an opening on the end of the case that has to be sealed up. There's this little dealy bob. Where is it? I've got one around here somewhere. It goes in that spot. This out of here. Bum, ba, bum. Should have found it before I did this. Oh, heck. Oh, there it is. This guy. It's a cam plug. Cam plug. Keep an eye on where the camera's pointing to. This goes in that little spot. The one that I took out of there was really all rusty and corroded, so I got a new one. And I want to get all the lube out of there. Let's see. That cam lube out of there before I put any adhesive in. What? I'm going to pause for a second here. take a little carbon choke cleaner here, put it on paper towel, clean any lube out of that. It might have gotten into that little, it's a little V-shaped spot right there. How's this camera angle doing? Yeah, you can't see jacked yet. Right. Yeah, you can sort of see it over here. There we go. Now, tell you what, I'll pick you up and put you in the right spot so you can see. So that's what I'm talking about right there. We should change it over here so you can see better. So there we go. The next thing you got to remember is there's little oil seals that go in here, O-rings. You know, I don't know if they're supposed to be lubricated or stuck in there with sealant or what, but they go down over these, just kind of roll them down, and they go into this groove right here, and I think they just go in dry. Pretty sure that should be fine. Where'd they go? I had a bunch of them here. Can't find it. There they are. All right. So let's put those in. And it's really tricky to, since everything's kind of balanced in here, the one side, to get the other side on there without the lifters falling in. And then you got to get the rods in the right spot. This lube that I'm using, this assembly lube that I'm using, is so sticky, it kind of works in your favor when you're doing this stuff, which is kind of cool. Right, get the end play in this there. Now you can adjust the end play when you put the flywheel on, and there's these little shims that go in there. Get to that later. But that's pretty close. We're pretty close to assembly here now. Let's see. Make sure everything's sitting right. That bearing is in that side. We want to give it a little grease. Don't put any lube in the crank journal, or crank journals. Yeah, journals. Put a little lube on the cam lobes. Put it on the gears there. And then what we use to seal the case, some people I've read don't even use anything on the case. I can't imagine doing that. I'm gonna take, it's gasket cinch is what's been recommended to me. So I don't know what this smells like. Ugh. It smells like rubber cement or contact cement. Give that a good old goob. Throw that in its spot. And let's do a mental checklist here. Make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Gonna go put some gum out in my rag here and give a, well, this is a wipe. I see I got a little lube on there. Don't want anything to impede a good seal, because you don't want something that's going to constantly drip oil once you're done with that. The last Volkswagen engine I did something wrong and the case always leaked, and it was a real bite. I hated that. I hated seeing that little drip there, knowing that I screwed up somehow, somewhere when I assembled that engine. And that leak was completely my fault. And I hate that. One of the reasons I like doing things by myself, I can't blame anybody but myself when something goes wrong. Unless it's, somebody's machine work or something that wasn't good. But there's a certain satisfaction of doing it yourself and getting it right. It's pretty hard to beat. So, that said, we're going to spread a little Gasket Essential along the case here. It should spread itself out pretty evenly by itself. Okay, let's try to get my elbow in the camera here. I'm just going to give it a good goob. It'll flatten out into a nice thin layer, but you want to make sure there's enough there for it to spread. God, I hope I didn't forget anything. Because once you get the motor together, it's not fun to try and take it apart again. All right, moment of truth. Try not to drop any tappets. I'll try and do it quickly to avoid that happening. Oh, there go the tappets. Lost two of them. The other one go. Well, I see one. Mystery. Another one here somewhere. What the heck happened to it? Mystery. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know where it went. It's very odd. Pause you here. All right, back on schedule here. Let's try it again. I'm going to look down the bores of the, oops, get those rods up where they need to be. I'm going to look down the bores of the crank. Son of a gun. Stay. They don't want to stay. Down the bores of these bolts and see if I can use them as a guide. Nope, that ain't gonna work. So what we're gonna have to do, same two fell out. we're gonna have to do is tilt the block to put it back in, put it in there. These guys want to fall out. I wonder if I should, if I'd used something else like white grease, they probably wouldn't have this issue. This stuff's pretty sticky, but it still is a lubricant after all. All right, so what we're gonna do, put the engine on its bottom here. I don't want it to go completely upright because I don't want the crank to fall out and all that good stuff. So there we go. Try to get this started this way. Oops. Forgot to put this all the way down. Yeah, and then you got to drop the rods in there too, so about far enough so the rods will go down. There's one. And the other one is in the down position. Dang, those lifters still want to pop out of there. It's a juggling act. A lot easier to do if you have an engine stand, but I don't, obviously. Alright, there we go. It should go together pretty easily from here on out. Oop, dang. This little cap is going to be this little cap's going to be a problem. It's, forgot to lube that up. Put a good liberal dose in there. You know, that's not a bad idea. I'll just go all around the case like that. Make sure I got enough in there. Because it's going to squeeze out either way if I don't. Some fine mechanicking skills here, right guys? So, may not be perfect, but it will be good enough, I think. Should go together pretty painlessly. I assume. Let's try running a couple of bolts in there and see if we can draw it together easily. These are anti-vibration bolts that came in the... I got a new kit that had all brand new washers and bolts for engine assembly. It was pretty inexpensive. Decent investment, I think. Let's see if we can draw it together. 17. 18. Wow. Big. Draws together pretty easily. I'm not going to worry about it too much. It seems like it is. Down there, right? The funny thing about this bolt kit, if you can hear my family upstairs. Funny thing about this bolt kit is nothing is identified, so you just kind of have to go by recognition as to what these things are actually supposed to be for. Oh, yeah, there's 6 of these, so it must be for that kind of thing. This corner is not coming down. Hopefully this will draw in. Let's see this. I'm not doing any torquing, I'm just kind of getting it snug. A long extension, where'd that go? Yes, I know, my bench is disgustingly unorganized. A lot of you guys are just watching this going, oh boy. Oh, here's my brother-in-law's here. You'll surely hear his voice. This is not cool. It's taking a lot more pressure than it should to draw this down. Something is possibly not cool. And the crank won't rotate now. So I did something wrong. I can't turn it using the rods. It should move around pretty freely at this point. So something's not right. I gotta take it back apart. Pause it here. Okay, so I got it apart and I can see what happened. The pin, the locator pin for the number one bearing was not in the right spot. You can see where when I started torquing down on the case, it put an impression in the underside of the bearing there. So that's what happened. Now you gotta take that thing out of there and reset it. Hopefully I didn't damage the bearing. I didn't crank down too hard. I was trying to be pretty careful about that. But there you go. That's one of the things that can happen, I guess. Let's see. If you're not careful enough. Here we go. lifters over here so they don't end up on the floor. Bugger. Pain in the ass. It's a little bit concerning because the crank wanted to come out with the other side of the block, and that was my first signal that something wrong happened. I'll try and pop this baby out of here. A little gentle pressure. I don't want to mar up anything. Let's put this paper towel underneath it. Maybe that'll help. Hopefully. Got it loose. Dang. It's really wedged in there. This is not cool. Am I going to do this? Wow, that's a perfect fit. Good grief. There we go. Popped her out. Now, get the whole thing out there and take a look at how badly banged up it is. Seems like it's okay. It just got kind of wedged in there. All right, so now we got to go through that whole spiel of putting the crank back where it belongs. This one over here. This one back over here. Basically, I'm using a couple of wooden blocks there on the bottom end of the motor, and this one on the top end of the motor. This will give me a little height for clearance there. All right, let's see if I can do this again without screwing up. So we need these two up. Marks. It's really hard. It's such a tight fit because it's machined to fit tightly on the sides as well as just in the pocket there. This is going to be a handy little tool here, I think. think, no, that's not in. You can kind of see, if you look at this and compare how much clearance there is on the sides versus the bottom, you can tell that it's not seated. My lines are not as reliable as I thought they were. But let's just get that out of there again. Set her down. Take that bearing. Let's figure this part out again. I'm going to make a mark on the side, or the center line, so I can line it up visually here. God, it's hard to tell. Should be right. I'm going to use the handle of the screwdriver and a wooden block to try and tap it down a little bit. Just doesn't look like it's going down all the way. The thing is so dang tight in there. Probably from trying to crush it in there without it being seated all the way. So my line is dead center with that peg hole. So that really should be it. Okay, that should do it. Now we can use that same method to line up the crank while we got it when we're putting it in here. Pull the camshaft out again. That's sticky stuff. The joys of doing stuff when you're not really set up for it. Anyway, do what we gotta do, right? All my fellow backyard mechanics out there, basement mechanics, whatever we're doing right now. I really didn't want to have to do this again. If you couldn't tell. That one is lined up. Boom. That one fell in there nicely. This one should be right about there. This end needs to drop first. Oh, this cam plug is a pain in the ass. It's covered with grease. It's never going to seal. Ah. Blah, indeed. Look, all that nice sealant that's drying on here, which I should probably clean off and redo now. Okay. Well, let's just get this thing seated in here first. You guys can see what I'm trying to do here. Probably can't see it at all, but there's a little line that I scribed on the side of the number 1 bearing here. Trying to get it. That pocket, the peg is dead center, so I need to get this bearing, that line on that bearing centered. This little bugger is really handy. Sometimes the things you luck into when you're working on stuff. Boom. Ah, that one's in. Okay, let's see. This one should, that one just popped in. This one's in. We should be good to go. That should still turn freely. Except for the rod is hitting the block there. It's not where it's where it's not supposed to be. Okay. It's turning pretty well. And that looks like it's in. Hot dang. So what I'm going to do, probably don't really want to watch this. And I'm running out of time to work tonight. But I'm going to clean all this gasket sealant off and reapply it all. And then I'll turn the camera on again probably tomorrow night when I get back to this. All right. Thanks for watching. All right. So now let's get to putting this thing together here and getting it torqued down. Where's my little picker-upper? This off of here. So what you want to do, and this is especially what this Permatex is good for, you want to goop up all this stuff. You're going to put a good messy layer on the studs, the surfaces. God, I really love the way this stuff smells. It really smells just like antique cars, I think. I don't know why. Those two. So after those go in, then the washers go in. Goop it up, get the washers in. And then some more goop. Oop, wrong goop. This stuff is really messy. You'll end up with it all over your hands before the whole thing's over with. Now the nuts. there's these two little studs that stick through here for the cam plug. We're going to use some washers on those two. Let me find the washers here. And again, let's scoop those up. Some more. The most frustrating thing you can have is when you put an engine together and then it frickin' leaks oil. That is a pain in the butt, and you don't want it to happen. So do everything you can to keep that from happening, because once you've got this thing together, you don't want to have to take it apart again. That's for sure. I can't find my extension here. What happened to it? Get that out of there. Pause you for a minute. Okay, let's get these all snugged up. Oop, get that nut down there. Now the block is going together really nicely. It's not like that's stuck on that bearing like it was that first time we tried to put it together. I don't know what I was thinking. I kind of jumped in here. I just wanted to get it done, and that's never the right way to do anything. You need to plan, especially when you're putting a freaking engine together. This looks like it's going together perfectly. I don't feel any hitches. Looks like it's crushing perfectly. Now I'm not torquing anything yet, I'm just getting it snugged up. You can truly feel when it's snugging up. Make sure we got no binding going on here. No. Okay, good. The crank still moves, so we're in good business here. Get that crank. Consulting my manual there because I don't remember. Like I said, I don't do this. This is the first one I put together in a while, but let's see. The two cam plug studs go to 14 pounds. Looks like these will go to 14. So we'll set 14 on here. These all to 14 first. everything to 14. These are little tiny studs, so I don't want to break them. Be careful with them. There we go. There's 14. There we go. All right, so those are torqued to whatever they're going to get to, which is 14. These now go to, the rest of these go to 20 now. So let's set the torque wrench for 20. You do a kind of a stepped torque. Let me see, I can't read this thing. Oh, get the right one. And that's 20 right there. I don't know if this is the right pattern to use, but it should be a decent pattern. You just want to start from the center and spread it out. And we'll do 25, and I think that's where we end up is 25. I'm going to double check this one. That's not good. Make sure the 14 still holds since we've torqued everything else around it. Yes. Okay, so that's it. Those are our mains. Now we've got to put all the hardware around the edge as well. Again, everything's getting sealed. Everything's getting washers. I hope I'm picking the right thing. Nuts, because well, they give you so many different nuts. You buy these little hardware kits. They all fit, but they're all different colors. And I really don't know what the meaning of them is. So let's just going to go with these copper ones, and hopefully they're the right ones. They're Nylox, which is nice. The old original hardware. This engine case had never been apart before. I think I mentioned that before, which was kind of cool. When you get something that hasn't really been torn apart in 50 years. It's kind of a neat thing. To, you know, you're not messing with somebody else's mistakes. Any mistakes that you make are your own. That's generally the way I prefer things to be. Now, let's see what the torque spec is here. That I did not look up. "15 foot-pounds" is what they're calling for. So let's set the old torque wrench up. Ugh, let's get some junk on it. Yeah, the Permatex is such a messy product, but I kind of love it, if not for nothing else, the way it smells. Let's see. All right, looks like it's set up for that right now. I'm going to put a longer extension on here. So let's start here and work our way around the right socket. Well, maybe I'll just snug them all up a little more than they were, because they're not very snug. I'm getting Permatex on my shirt. Dang it. It said it gets everywhere. That's why you put the studs on the one way, so you can reach them at the same time you're doing the nuts. There we go. You don't ever want to torque on the nut, on the bolt side of a nut and bolt like this, because there can be binding happening on this, so you're not going to get a true torque out of it. This is just kind of rotating on its own. The nut is, but if you try and rotate the bolt, it's going to have the drag of whatever it goes through added in there. All right, now I'm going to start torquing. Different socket. Okay, there's that. It seems like it's an awful lot of torque sometimes putting on these things. 13 out. There we go. Okay, where'd it go? Where's my 13? Did I do something stupid? Oh, there it is, it rolled. Awfully small bolts, and I'm being a little delicate with them because I really don't want to snap them off. It would really suck at this point. Studs, I should say. This seems like an awful lot of torque I'm putting on these things. I mean, 15 pounds isn't a lot, but there it goes. It feels like an awful lot when you think it's might break. Alright. I think I have a couple more here. Did I do these? No. Yeah, well,
I lost my tooth.
where'd it go? You found it?
It's in my.
And so there you have it. That's my basic block setup. I'm going to stop at this point and go eat some pizza, and we'll get back to it. The next part is mounting the heads and the cylinders and putting the pistons and all that stuff in here. So we'll be taking the pistons, putting rings on the cylinders, putting some rings on the pistons, and putting them together as an assembly. And then we'll slide the rods, or these, into there, and there's little rings that hold them in place. And that's the next phase. And what we also have to do is seat, from the first things and the most time-consuming thing, is to seat the tops of the cylinders into the heads. That'll be interesting. So stay tuned. Thanks for checking us out. And hit subscribe, hit like if you liked it. And I hope we'll see you again. Thanks a lot, man. Bye.